Little review today of the Boss Katana 50 amp. Now if you follow my channel you'll know that I've recently taken up playing guitar again. I've got the Epiphone SG Pro there, absolutely fantastic. Got a review up of that a month or two ago. Please take a look at that if you're interested. But obviously to complement that you need an amp. So from the perspective of this video, I really want to give you my thoughts as sort of a beginner, someone coming back to guitar, not needing or wanting to spend an awful lot of money, but wanting sort of some really good, fun products to use. So I thought I'd take a look at this amp. I'll try and take a little bit of a different take on the review to others because there are lots of reviews of this amp out there already. I won't be giving you a demo, but I'll talk about why I chose this amp. And maybe if you're in a similar situation to me, that'd be useful perspective for you to consider. First of all, huge amount of competition at this price range. Sub £200, round about 150 if you shop around. There's Vox amps, there's Line 6, all doing sort of modelling, home use practice amps with a lot of features. There's also the Black Star amp, which is 1 watt. All tube, completely basic, no extras, no effects, and that was also something I pondered, but I really did want to get the effects in there. So first of all, let's have a quick look at the box. Box is not important at all really. You never see these in the shop, you're not looking at these on the shelf like in a supermarket, but it is a really nice box. Nice graphic on the front there and on the side. You've got a little bit about the features. But more importantly, on the other end, you've got the control panel and rear outputs, which I think is quite useful. But really, in the box, as you can imagine, you've got your amp, you've got your instructions unopened, because it is actually quite an intuitive system, and obviously you've got your kettle lead plug there. Looking at the amp, obviously you've got your handle at the top, you've got your rear or top mounted control panel, and you've got this little sort of ready reckoner to show you how it works. On the front, very basic and clean design, very functional, very sort of robust looking, screws at the front, nice big logo. I think it looks really good. Flipping around to the back, you've got a full 12-inch driver in there. You've got your foot controller, not included. Headphones out, which is quite useful for home use, and auxiliary in, so you can put your MP3 player or something in like that. On the bottom, you've got a really nice kickstand feature, which we'll get a close-up of. And then we'll come in for a bit of a look at the top panel. I thought this was worthy of a close-up because I'm not sure if other people have shown this on the videos, but on the bottom you've got a little tiny kickstand which allows the amp to be tilted backwards and just get that little bit more projection. But on the side there, if you're familiar with Boss pedals, that's exactly the same screw you find on the battery compartment, which I thought was a nice feature. So you can wind or release your little kickstand leg and lock it into place with a screw, or equally release a screw, pop it back into position and lock it back. I just thought that was a nice feature. Inside you've got a Boss Katana branded in-house speaker, and you can also pick up in the shadows here, it's got a good sort of construction, little wedges all glued in place. Fairly robust, open back, and obviously up here you've got the rear controls. It's up at the top, on the top panel where you have most of the interesting stuff going on. One of the really good things about this amp is the way it sort of models the dynamic response, if you will, of a tube amp. So you can control your the breakup of your sound through the front end gain and volume here, while still having control of your output this side. and not sure if you can pick it up on the camera, but this is a real selling point for me. Over here you've got the power control section, and you've got standby, which I don't think is really necessary on an electronic amp or a sort of digital amp. But then you've got a 0.5 watt setting, 25 watts and 50 watts. And at a sort of beginner sort of level, wanting to use it at home, 0.5 watts, incredibly useful, because some of the amps that you end up buying as you start out for home use, you realise you just can't use. Years ago when I used to play guitar, I bought a 35 watt all tube amp, absolutely useless at home. You couldn't get it to perform well without deafening yourself. So the 0.5 setting is incredibly important for home use, so that's a real great selling point. As I say, it's got that dynamic response, so even if you choose your amp type to be clean, over here you've got the choice of different sort of amp models. So even if you pick your amp to be clean, you can still get it to break up by increasing the gain, and certainly if you've got high output humbuckers on your guitar, you can get that sort of dynamic response. So you can almost control the amount of breakup in your sound using the volume controls on your guitar, which is really nice. Looking at the amp types, you've got clean, crunch, lead, and the brown sound, which is sort of a model based on the really expensive Boss the Boss Wazza amps. You've also got a setting for acoustic, which is designed for a electroacoustic, but obviously, do what you like and have a play with it. So then you've got obviously your gain, your volume on your sort of front end, and then you've got a 3-band EQ, which is useful. And then you're on to the really interesting bit, which is the effects. So the effects, when they're turned right down, they're all set to be off. Over here you've got a little ready reckoner, so you've got a choice of the boost. So on the front end there, up to midpoint, you're choosing between a blues drive, overdrive, or distortion, and you can pick them by going through the red, amber, green on that one. And then once you tip it past the midpoint, so if you look there, just at the midpoint, it switches off, and then you tip it over, and then you're into the second function of that effect, which is modulation, and then you've got the choice of chorus, flanger, or phaser, depending on which you select up there. Now, one of the limitations of this, I think, is when you're sort of sweeping through those effects, really you don't really have full control of the parameters. Really, it's a case of going from a very gentle effect to full saturation, so almost a wet dry effect, but you don't have the full control. Over on the middle effect, you've got delay on the first half, and again you can choose between digital, analog and tape echo style delays by going the red, amber, green. And just there you'll see a little flashing button, and that's your tempo, your tap rhythm for the delay effect. So you can go tap tap and get it quick, or you can go tap tap and get it going a little bit more slowly. So another thing to play with there. If you go over to the midpoint, obviously it switches off again, and then into the second set of effects you've got tremolo, auto wire, or a octave. And again, these are all modelled on the tried and tested sort of Boss formulas. The octave is only a single tone octave, it's not polyphonic, I think would be the phrase. So if you try and play chords, it gets a bit confused, it can't process that. Then finally you've got the reverb. So only one setting on this, and you've got the choice of plate, spring, or hall reverb. Again, as a beginner, this gives you the opportunity to have a play around, find out which effects you find appealing. And I think probably the next step on from this is probably to get a much more simple amp, and then just buy some sort of standalone effects pedals based on maybe what you've learnt here. I think that's what I intend to do, because it's all well and good having all these effects, but you don't have full control over them. You can basically plug into a micro USB at the back and you can control the parameters. Unfortunately, that doesn't come with an app which works on your iPhone or your iPad, which I prefer, because I don't really like installing software on my laptop, because that's what I use for work, that's what I use for processing videos. I don't really like adding more and more software onto that, because eventually it mucks it up. But you can go online, get the app for your PC, laptop, plug it in, and then you can control the parameters much more readily. But I'd really prefer that to be a Apple iPad app, which it doesn't seem to be at the moment. Then finally, over on the right hand side here, you've got the tone settings, and this is basically presets. So you can basically go for panel, which it's at now. So this is the complete array that you're listening to, or you can go for channel 1 or channel 2, and basically it's just a case of holding it down, captures this, and away you go. What I would say is I don't use that. I like to mess around with the panel. I like to see what my settings are, so I can understand where my sound's coming from. Once you put it into these presets, it does become completely opaque. You do not know what's in there, and that for me is a bit frustrating. Okay, well, that's kind of the guts of the system, and I just thought maybe I'd sort of reflect on some of the positive points and why you might choose this and why you might not. So first of all, as we said over here, really good natural breakup, so it's got that dynamic response. It's really good fun, and it does, from my limited experience, feel like a good representation of what a tube amp might do. On this side, you've got the 0.5 watt setting, absolutely fantastic, absolutely essential for home use, I think. You've got enough effects to play with, keep you interested, because sometimes when you're starting out, you just need something to keep on bringing you back to the guitar, because sometimes you're not getting enough reward for the hard effort you're putting in. I think having a few effects to play with, whilst it is all about your sort of actual playing is important, you do need something to get you sat down and keep you focused. And actually, this toy does keep you focused, I think. The build quality is excellent. The kickstand I love. You've seen the close-up of that. I think that's a really nice bit of attention to detail. Huge variety of tones. It is all here. Takes you up to 50 watts. This could be the only amp you need for your whole guitar playing career. I think most people like to try out different kit, and even if it was the case, they'd buy something different anyhow. You can get a foot controller. It is about £75 as far as I can tell, and that basically controls these settings. I think you might also be able to change the amp type. It's quite expensive. I think £75. I prefer to buy a drive pedal, maybe, just to swap a couple of the sounds. I'm not sure, £75 seems quite a lot. And obviously you've got the opportunities to do some stuff online. You can adjust the effects online. You can get all the pedals, parameters online through the computer program. I haven't done it. It seems a bit much of a fuss to do, actually. It's not as good as I'd hope it to be. And finally, a few negative points. As I said, these settings aren't visible, so I'm sure they are if you plug your computer in, but that is a bit frustrating for me. Again, on the effects side, really like to see an iPad or iPhone app. I think that most people could work with that. I think that's really the best way to go. I'm much for apps and programs on that platform now, because they can't. The risk of mucking something up is much lower. And finally, just if you're using these alone, the range you get here isn't fantastic. It's enough to enjoy the effect, but sometimes you really want to play with the parameters a bit more, and it'd be nice to have something more here. I don't know quite how you'd achieve that, but maybe if you had 2 knobs per effect and you could one's wet and dry and one's one parameter. It'd be really nice, but that would probably radically change the price of the amp. Okay, well, I hope that was useful. As I say, really pleased with this purchase. I think it's a really good amp to start out with as a beginner. It's got the flexibility, it's got all the different sort of features which allow you to work out what you want from your equipment, allows you to understand the different effects you might choose to use, and it's really good. Low volume, good fun. I'm very pleased with it. So if you haven't seen my channel before, please check it out. We might share some common interests. If you're into, obviously, guitar, quality footwear, denim, everyday carry, pen knives, fountain pens, please check out the channel. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up, and I'll see you for the next video. Okay, thank you very much. Bye bye.